Well, guys, the negative headlines just keep rolling in for Tesla, unfortunately. I hate to admit it, but it's true, guys. They keep rolling in. So we have to discuss it right here. Let's discuss those specifically, whether or not I'm concerned or not. And, we'll talk both short term and long term there. So that way you kind of have my opinion on these things. Because I got to be honest, they're not good. Some of it's overblown, of course. Some of it is absolutely not. So we got to get to the bottom of it. Because in the end, it affects your shares of Tesla stock, so it's kind of important, so let's get to the bottom of all of it. I just ask in exchange for you to gently tap that like button and consider subscribing too. It's super easy to do if you like the truth without the hype. All right, so off of that huge bump up off that bottom that we got in January, because Wall Street is just honestly stupid and just for whatever reason wanted to beat Tesla down to almost under $100, we've seen a massive run up in Tesla stock to where, basically it's kind of regained everything that it lost the prior year. But we're once again seeing a downtrend in the stock again because of three big things that have kind of come up, and we need to discuss each one of them specifically here so that way we can get to the bottom line of it. But these are things that are working against the stock both short term and long term. So we kind of got to get to the bottom of it so that way we can understand what's going to happen to our shares, not only in the short term, but in the long term as well. And I'll be honest with you guys, and up front, I'll give you kind of a scale almost of each one, level of concern, all that sort of stuff. But the last one that we're going to discuss is kind of the one that I'm most concerned with overall for Tesla. So make sure you at least stick around for that one. So number one is the continuation of the price cuts. So they just announced another round of fresh price cuts there in China. And we all know the reasons why. I mean, they're doing it to gain market share. And obviously, as inflation has come down a little bit, I know it's not all the way down, guys. Relax. Don't jump in the comments just yet. But as inflation has started to come down, as they've gotten more efficient, they've been able to do this without harming the margins too much. But I'd be lying if I said this isn't going to affect the stock in the short term. It means lower revenue. It means lower EPS numbers, and it means that margin number is not going to improve like we all think it's going to improve. And a lot of kind of the bull cases, especially long-term bull cases in the stock, have a really ridiculously high margin, especially for, auto industry type stocks. Now, I understand Tesla's doing more than that, and maybe in the future it will be much more of a software company than an automaker. But for right now today, and we're talking about today, guys, it is an automaker, and these are all things that are going to impact the stock in the short term. So Luke's unofficial short-term concern meter is at an 8 out of 10 for this stock, because I'll be honest with you guys, those numbers are going to reflect in the next quarter's numbers. Now, I think the numbers will still be outstanding overall, but as far as what Wall Street wants to see, those EPS numbers are not going to be scorching hot like they were prior. Those revenue numbers aren't going to be high as they would have been if they wouldn't have cut those prices. And more importantly, the reason why it's a short-term concern, why I have it 8 out of 10, is because traders are going to trade off of that in the short term. They're not looking about market share. They could care less about market share into the future. They don't care about anything into the future. They care about what's going to happen today, maybe next week, maybe next month, possibly a few of them are looking out next quarter, and that's it. And I can't say objectively in the short term that picture is going to be pretty over that time frame. So absolutely, it's going to get traded down, as we've already seen. Now, my long-term concern rating is only a 1 out of 10, guys. It's not a concern for me long-term at all. It is strictly a play on market share. Different businesses do that at different parts of their various, times in their business cycle per se. And that's all that this really is in the end. They have the margins to do it. So what? The margins are still wonderful regardless of how much more they cut if they choose to cut further. So I'm not concerned at all. They have a giant cash pile there. There's so much going on good for them. This long term for me is not a concern at all. It's a 1 out of 10. I could almost put it at a 0 out of 10, but to stick with the scale here, we'll do 1 out of 10 there in terms of the concern long term. So number 2 is big funds selling out of Tesla. And I know, guys, in terms of, funds selling in and out of Tesla, it happens all the time. I would agree completely. But when you see a long-term bull like ARK, sell some of their funds and really, really trade Tesla kind of hard, are they sending a signal that they're seeing something that other folks aren't doing? I personally am not really that worried about it. I haven't followed ARK in a long time. If you guys have followed me for any length of time, you know that, hey, ARK is going to do things for their fund. Sometimes it's just simply to rebalance. Sometimes there's some other things going on within this, the portfolio there that we're not going to see as the public. But a lot of times it has very little to do with their conviction in the stock and a lot to do with something that has to do with managing that portfolio and the rules within the portfolio and all that sort of stuff like that. So for me, in terms of short-term concern, it is. I'd put it at about a 5 out of 10 or so on the scale there in regards to short-term concern, because it does mean that there is going to be downward pressure on the stock. It does mean that there are other funds out there that maybe need to do the same thing, especially if they bought that dip, down around $100 or so, $150, and they got that massive run up. They've got to take some profits and kind of rebalance that portfolio there. So for me, short-term concern, it's a 5 out of 10. Long-term concern, Again, a 0 or a 1 out of 10 at max, not a long-term concern at all. I don't care what funds do. Funds are not long-term buy and hold investors. It's completely irrelevant. They trade, they have to show profits, they have to actually show paper profits, like actually take the profit and put it in there. As a long-term investor, I don't. I can hold on to my stocks forever, and I prefer to follow more of, what Buffett does with his companies and hold them forever than somebody like a Kathy Wood who has to trade in and out all the time and can't afford to hold long term, especially whenever a stock goes on a run. She has to punish her winners. I personally do not have to punish my winners. Warren Buffett doesn't have to punish his winners, and you guys out there don't have to punish your winners. So I'm not going to punish my winners at all with this. And in terms of long term, totally irrelevant. Long term, I think the long term thesis for Tesla is just fine. And I think even those big funds like ARK that are selling out of it for various reasons absolutely think that long-term thesis is intact long-term, so it's not a concern at all with them either. And finally, the big dog, the one you guys have to hear the most, this is number 3, and it's Elon being in a cage fight with Mark Zuckerberg. All right, I'm totally kidding about that. That was not number 3 at all, guys. Slow down, calm down. I'll give you number 3 here in just a second, but let me throw this headline up for you so that way you guys can see it. This is what, the finance media does in general. This is what some YouTubers do. This is what people do. There's absolutely nothing to do with Tesla stock, zero, none whatsoever, unless, obviously something really, really bad happens and there's a terrible injury in the cage. Outside of that, it means nothing to Tesla stock. But here it is. Here's an article discussing how maybe they should do something different with their Tesla stock because Elon's going to fight in a cage. Like, it's literally the dumbest thing ever, guys. Just completely ignore this sort of garbage. It's just something I saw it and I was just like, what the heck? And it just, I don't know. I wanted to bring it to you guys' attention so that way you can just completely ignore this and see exactly how mindless and how silly sometimes finance media gets in regards to what should and shouldn't move with stock and what you should and shouldn't do and what it means for Tesla and all this other crap like that. Total garbage, guys. Just completely ignore it. So the real number 3 is all the C-level executives that seem to be leaving Tesla constantly. I mean, you just had the CFO leave that was very well respected, and you've had a nice steady trail of very high-level executives, very smart people leaving Tesla for other opportunities out there. Now, I agree, it happens within all companies. These guys, sometimes there isn't a promotion opportunity within their company, so they move on to a different challenge, to maybe get that promotion, or maybe to take on a new challenge altogether. But with Tesla, it seems to be, a little bit of a different scenario there. And I can't deny that, guys. I'm not trying to be bearish or anything else like that. I'm trying to be as straightforward and as honest with you guys as possible that Elon's hard to work for. He's not easy to work for. He's extremely demanding. And the fact that the CFO was able to stay on for that long without getting burned out is really a testament to how strong that individual was. But on the flip side of all that sort of stuff, it doesn't negate the fact that he's hard to work for. He's super demanding, sometimes maniacally demanding. And that's why Tesla goes where it goes. But it also means you're going to have a turnover in those C-suite spots. And that's hard for a company long-term to sustain and continue to draw the best talent and keep them there and not have some hiccups along the way. So it really is a major concern. But my short-term concern rating is only a 1 out of 10. And let me explain it here, guys. The biggest reason why is Tesla's already rolling. A lot of the things that the CFO has changed, that this individual changed, they're already implemented. They're already in work. They're already in progress. And so, Tesla's able to move forward with that. You won't see the impact of this in the short term. Obviously, traders are going to trade it, and you'll see all that sort of stuff like that. But in regards to the actual, quarterly performance of Tesla or anything else like that, it's really not that concerning. Those things are already in motion. They're already working. And it'll take some time in order for them to do that. Oh, and by the way, the CFO is staying on board in order to kind of smooth that transition over, which tells you, one, the negative, the relationship between, Elon is not, it's good. It's not bad. It's not negative, or else they wouldn't be hanging around to just, help with that transition. And 2, it basically signals that, hey, there are things in place to kind of get us through that point and to that period. So no concern here on the short term. Now, long term, my concern on the concern rating is a 5 out of 10, and hear me out before you blast me. Then you can go down and blast me down in the comments. But I'm telling you guys right now, I don't care what the Ultra Bulls say. It doesn't matter. The fact is, Tesla is 100% dependent upon Elon, and Elon is the engine that makes things run. Elon is the reason why it gets the valuation that it gets, and he is the reason and the drive for all the great things that go, right or wrong. I realize a lot of people are involved in the Tesla team in order to get all those sort of things happen, but it all starts right there at the top. And right now, Tesla has not moved the business to a point where Wall Street is suddenly going to just give Tesla the same multiple that they would have given it if Elon wasn't there. That's just not true at all, especially as rich as Tesla can trade at times. That's not the case at all. You remove Elon from that equation, who's next up? What is that succession plan? That's another thing that I know and I've heard concerns large investors, those big institutional investors who own some Tesla. They want to own more, but they want to see, hey, is Elon Musk going to continue to be a loose cannon and get distracted all the time, at least distracted in their minds? And oh, by the way, even if he does get so distracted with this project, that project, going to Mars, whatever the case is, who's next? What does that succession planning look like? And that's something that, has not been addressed yet. So I can't say that's not a long-term concern, because if you continue to have your best talent who would be the best to fill that void and kind of fill in that spot and allow Elon to be Elon and do other things and maybe focus on something else completely while they take over the day-to-day, that person's not there. That's a big question mark for large investors specifically. And more importantly, that means that valuation, especially a more rich valuation, is tenuous. What happens if you choose the wrong successor? That's a giant problem for a company, even as great as Tesla is, especially given the runway that we think Tesla has long-term in terms of growth. I mean, it's if we're technically at the beginning of that growth stage right now, and it's an exponential growth on the back end there, well, you need to be well down that exponential growth curve before people are comfortable that, hey, remove Elon and everything still continues on that trajectory. Unless you have somebody there's already a succession plan there, and that person's already involved in the day-to-day, if I could talk, that person's already involved in the day-to-day, and things are already moving in that direction, that person has a big hand in it. At that stage, then Elon could peel off and do something else, and it wouldn't really hurt Tesla stock all that much. So it's absolutely something you have to consider when you're looking at Tesla stock. And remember, if you want to see all my buy and sells in Tesla in real time, if you want to see my watch list with price targets, to include my price target for Tesla, and be able to ask me questions anytime you want about Tesla, what's going on with the stock, slide into my DMs. We got 5 courses to take for free. We got a stock analyzer tool where you can analyze Tesla completely free for members. That's coming soon, guys. So close I can taste it. And a ton more. Make sure you check out the pinned comment down there and see if a membership's right for you. I may have left up a special something for you guys down there. And click this video here if you want to see the exact stocks I'm buying. And click here if you want to see the exact plan for those stocks that I'm buying. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.